are the cool kids. Then there's the underrated champions, the ones that go under the radar, no one's talking about them, they're not that cool, but they're really underrated, and you should probably play them. Why is this reminding me of high school? And for our question of the day, as always, I'm actually really curious about this one. Would most of you rather be a pro player or a successful content creator? I'm very curious to see what you guys think about that. All right, guys, let me know down below, and let's get into the video. Nasus is going to be our first underrated pick for the top lane, and for the reason why, you need to look no further than the patch notes. Nasus will now receive a growing range on his Wither proportionate to how many stacks he's accrued, and as an added bonus, he himself grows proportionally bigger with his stacks when he ults. With split push top laners doing pretty well for themselves, and with games lasting longer, Nasus is receiving plenty of time to get those stacks built up, so he can properly destroy whatever's on his screen. Plus, with the teleport buffs, he's even more capable of punishing bad macro than ever in the late game. With the infinitely stacking damage on his Q, the increasing range on his W, and an armor shredding circle, he is an extremely difficult champion to take down after he ults. Cash in on him while he's still unexpected in your solo queue games, and if you guys are in gold or lower, just do yourself a favor, learn Nasus, pick him up, and just carry those games to a W. Teemo is our second underrated pick for top lane. Whereas Nasus is a late game raid boss, Teemo is more of a consistent plague. For all of you top laners out there, we already know what kind of plague Teemo is, but for everyone else, if you guys want to carry some games, Teemo is actually pretty good at it. Since Riot changed teleport to be more helpful in the late game for split pushers, they compensated for that increase in power by making it worse in the early game. This means aggressive lane bullies like Teemo receive even more benefit from forcing opponents out of lane early on, especially since Teemo in particular doesn't care about teleport. This frees him up to take Ignite and double down on his early kill pressure. With his Q doing such a large chunk of damage and blinding his enemies, it's hard for most top laners to trade with Teemo, since even if they do manage to get on him, they probably can't hit him before he runs away with his W, then just spams you with his poison, and then ignites you until you're dead. And when he runs away, his E's poison is slowly wearing you down, and your jungler can't even help you without wading through a field of shrooms. Oh, this is so relatable. Even after laning phase, a Teemo who's diligently placing shrooms around objectives before they spawn will make it an enormous chore for the entire team to even approach. Here's a quick recap of all the builds we mentioned for the top lane. Take a look at them real quick as we jump into the jungle. Xin Zhao is our first underrated jungle pick for patch 10.7. Xin is one of the best early duelist junglers in League. That's never been his problem. The problem for him though is that he doesn't scale well into the late game at all. But Riot recently buffed his late game scaling in addition to buffing phase rush for melee champions. With his new ability to stick to targets, he's falling off much less significantly. He's still no late game hypercarry, but it definitely helps cover his primary weakness. His passive keeps him healthy in the jungle, and the rest of his kit is basically designed to be one of the best early skirmishers in the game. Pick him to hunt down the enemy jungler, counter gank them into oblivion, and then assert your dominance. Alright, here is a strange pick for you guys. You've heard it before, but you probably haven't tried it out. It's Morgana. We've seen Morgana jungle a couple years ago when Riot overtuned her spell vamp, but now she's back at it again after yet another set of Riot's attempts to bring more champions into the jungle pool. Morgana seems to be the most successful of these changes, and she's almost always an asset to her team comp anyway, due to her E's spell shield blocking CC. Her ganks with her long-range Q followed by her AoE stun on her ult are really strong, as you guys know. And her clear on her W, it's not that good to be honest, but it's passable enough to make her a valid choice. She's a great pickup for rounding out a comp that needs a little bit more utility, or maybe you just need to spell shield a carry. Either way, people are sleeping on Morg jungle, so give it a shot and let us know what you think down below. Alright guys, here's a quick recap of the builds we mentioned for the jungle before we head down to the mid lane. Anivia is our first underrated pick for patch 10.7. Anivia is one of those champions that stands the test of time and remains as a mid lane staple in many different metas. Even when she's bad, she's not really that bad, since it's pretty hard to be ineffective with a kit that's so incredibly loaded with crowd control and damage. She's squishy and immobile for sure, but that's more than made up for by the huge burst damage and AoE stun on her Q, the playmaking potential of her wall, the 100% AP ratio on her empowered E, and the zone control that her ult offers. She's great in ACs, she's great for stalling out games, and her scaling is phenomenal. She's one of the more difficult champions in League to really master purely because her Q is slow moving, and learning to use her wall has a decent curve all on its own. But she's extremely rewarding, and she's great in the current meta where she gets plenty of time to build into her damage. Additionally, with objective control more important than ever, her ability to block off objectives with her wall and her ult is invaluable. Just make sure not to separate your carry from your support because that will get them really flaming you. I tried it once in a normal game and I almost got banned. Galio is our second pick in the mid lane, and it's been quite a while since he shined there. After a few buffs from Riot to compensate for taking away his ability to flash while he was channeling his taunt, he's honestly not in such a bad spot anymore. His wave clear in mid with his Q's tornadoes and his passive smash lets him use his ult to roam to other waves and save his allies. His E's dashing punch is a good engage when followed up by his W taunt. The ability to affect side lanes is one of the most important things for mid laners right now, so that's why Galio is doing so well. The damage Riot gave him is pretty good too, as are the shields from his ult. Use him now before everyone else catches on, and you'll be soaring the ladder as often as you're soaring to your allies. Alright guys, here's a quick recap of all the builds we mentioned for the mid lane as we head down to the bot lane. Syndra is our first underrated bot laner in patch 10.7. Syndra is a long-range burst mage, and while she does usually go mid, she's also more than capable of being a bot lane carry. We see mages go bot from time to time, and Syndra bot has even seen some pro play, but people really slept on it. Don't be afraid to do something just because it's unconventional. Playing off-meta things like Syndra bot may require a bit more practice, but she's well worth the effort. Her Q is a solid form of harass and wave clear, especially in combination with her W. Once you get good at aiming her E stun, you're even free to be your own playmaker, following up with her ult for a kill. In team fights, Syndra's AoE stun can single-handedly turn things around, so she's a great choice for rounding out a comp that needs AP and a bit more CC. If you are an ADC main, she is a little bit different. Her playstyle is kind of unfamiliar, so I recommend you go into a normal game or you go into a practice tool before playing her in ranked. Varus will be our second underrated pick for the bot laners. While most ADC players are opting for the safety of Ezreal or the scaling of Vayne, they're missing out on what is quite possibly the best sieging ADC in the game, Lethality Varus. Building Lethality slightly sacrifices the potency of Varus' auto attacks in exchange for adding potency to his abilities. In short, Varus' long-range Q poke hurts a ton. Nothing is more annoying than trying to defend a tower or approaching an objective than having to eat a Varus Q that chunks you for a third of your health. If Varus can set up around an objective with his team, it's all but his as he rains down Q arrows and E volleys before sealing the deal with his ult. If you're someone who likes to chill in the backline and just press Q and you have pretty decent aim, I definitely recommend playing Varus. Alright guys, here's a quick recap of the builds we mentioned for ADC one last time as we head into support. Our first underrated support on patch 10.7 will be someone we just mentioned, Galio. Just like in the mid lane, Galio's buffs have been pretty kind to him. He does monstrous damage without even having to focus his build on it. He's really tanky, and the utility he offers his team makes him an exceptional frontliner and backline peeler. In the support role, his ult is most useful for aiding his mid laner against ganks or helping his jungler in bot side invades, and the pressure that it buys for his team is extremely helpful. He may not be able to taunt flash anymore, but with the way his numbers are right now, he doesn't even need to. Our last pick on this list is going to be Sona support. Wow, Sona support building support items. What has the world come to? Anyway, Sona is finally back in the enchanter role where she belongs, no longer being abused as a bot lane carry or a roaming top laner. This means that her lane poke will once again be having squishy ADCs, HP bars, with her AoE healing and shielding also being incredibly useful. And her AoE movement speed will be used to usher ADCs in and out of fights like the League of Legends gods intended. Her ult is still the same teamfight winning marvel it's always been, but since so many fights are happening in the choke points around Dragon and Baron Pit, it's easier to max out the ult's value than ever before. Woo, it's good to have you back, Sona. It's been a while. Alright guys, here's a quick recap of all the builds we mentioned for support before we wrap up the video. That's it for our underrated picks for patch 10.7. This is generally one of my favorite videos because it's actually really useful. You can start playing a champion and they'll never be banned, so you get to get really good with that champion, and it ends up really helping me climb the ladder. Once again, guys, if you want to get better at League of Legends this season, you know where to go. Go to proguides.com, go find your challenger coach right now, start climbing the ladder. No better time to do it than right now. That's it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck in your next few games, and I'll see you on the Rift.